Lately, Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria have been going back and forth on Twitter. I want to give my thoughts on this matchup and on some of the things they've been saying specifically in this tweet by Ilia Topuria. I'm going to focus on this tweet throughout my video. I want to start by saying, first of all, let me read the tweet. Ilia says, the only thing questionable, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I'm the one with the English deficiency. Maybe Ilia has better English than me. The only thing questionable about me is whether I finish you by KO or submission. I just beat the guy that beat you not once, not twice, but 3 times. He's writing this like a villain almost. I'd like to think that this is ChatGPT'd. You know? His English is not this good to be typing all this out. You now have the one thing that keeps you relevant, and that would grant you a money fight, the BMF belt. I no longer fight for money, but for legacy. Winning that belt while holding my title will cement me as the first to hold both belts, the first to knock out Volt, and what most certainly will happen when we fight, the first one to put you to sleep. Like I said, man, he's typing this out like a villain, like a mafia boss. On one hand, I respect the marketing, and I respect that he's building himself. But on the other hand, you don't want to push too far, because you're going to sound a bit corny, you know what I mean? Like, you're not him. This is not The Godfather, like you were not Antonio Montana, Anyways, we continue. Something to calm you down is this. God doesn't shame anyone. You will have a worthy defeat against a champion who will be remembered for eternity. I decide who, when, and where. If you don't like the terms, I'm sure Ortega will oblige. And he puts his little rose emoji. So we got that aside. Him being, the main character almost, or acting like the main character. One thing I want to point out is talking about grant you a money fight. To me, that's the most, like, out of all of this, main character, mafia boss type of, tweet, the stuff where he's talking about grant you a money fight as if Holloway didn't just make $600K in bonuses in his last fight. Like, I think Holloway is well off in terms of money fights, Like, you don't have that over Holloway. Holloway's doing good monetarily. He has star power, I think he's in line for a McGregor fight next, but I'm going to talk about that later. But I think Holloway's doing just fine in terms of money. Another thing I want to talk about is this BMF belt. He's talking about, I want to fight you only if the BMF belt is on the line. First of all, I don't understand why Max Holloway doesn't just say yes and put it up. I don't understand if he's saying no or what's going on. Like, if you think you're going to win, then just put the BMF belt on the line, right? Like, it's a gimmick belt anyways. And more on that point about the BMF belt being a gimmick belt. Why does Ilia Topuria care about the BMF belt being on the line? Like, he talks about Ortega at the end. I'm going to talk more about Ortega in a second. What makes fighting Ortega better than fighting Holloway without the BMF belt? It's not like you're going to get a BMF belt from Ortega. I think Holloway's much better for your resume than Ortega. And Ortega doesn't have a BMF belt for you. So, if Holloway doesn't put the BMF belt on the line, you're not going to fight Holloway, and you're just going to fight Ortega and still have no BMF belt. I don't understand the logic behind that. The BMF belt is a gimmick. It is not impressive. Having Holloway on your resume is way more impressive than any gimmick belt. Moreover, just to add more on that point, who was the first person to have a BMF belt in the first place? The first person to get the BMF belt was Jorge Masvidal. Does anyone say Jorge Masvidal went down in history or made a legacy? No, everyone calls Jorge Masvidal a journeyman, right? Jorge Masvidal is like, we all recognize now that he's kind of a hype job. But he was the first to get the BMF belt. That's legacy right there. It's not legacy, bro. You want to know why? Because it's all a gimmick. It's a gimmick belt. You've touched undisputed gold. That's way more than a BMF belt will ever be. Why are you hyped about a BMF belt? Defending against deserving contenders is way better on your resume as a champion than holding the BMF belt at the same time. It's really not all that. The BMF belt is just a stupid gimmick belt, right? And it's given us some fun fights, but at the end of the day, it is a gimmick. So stop focusing on it. I really don't understand what the big deal about the BMF belt is, but I want to talk about something else, which is, where's Volkanovski in all this? Why is Ilia talking about Holloway or Ortega? You have a Volk rematch that should be first and foremost, right? Is that not the next logical step for Ilia? The Volkanovski rematch? Where is Ortega coming into this? Where is Holloway coming into this? Where's the BMF belt coming into this? Volkanovski deserves a rematch. Volkanovski should get a rematch. I think they're going to book that for MSG at the end of the year. I don't see the Sphere happening. I don't see Perth happening. I think the move is going to be Volkanovski Topuria in MSG. If that's the fight that they're shooting for, then why is there any talk about which contender is next? Why is that even up for discussion? We don't even care about that right now. We're trying to see what's going to happen with Volkanovski. Volk is probably going to get chinned again. Sorry, Volk, it's going to happen. But if he doesn't, in the off chance that, Volkanovski does it and he gets the belt back, which I don't see happening, then Holloway's not getting a title shot at 45. We know he's not getting a title shot at 45. A fourth Volk fight, that's not happening. Ortega's probably not getting a shot either. Volk will probably just retire, to be honest with you. And then maybe Holloway can fight for the vacant 45 belt. I don't really know. But I don't understand why we're talking about contenders when Volk should be having his rematch. No one was talking about contenders when Leon won the belt. They're all saying, okay, let's get Usman in there again. So why is that not the same mentality we're going with here? Let's get Volkanovski back in here at the end of the year against Topuria. He'll probably lose that matchup, but let's give him the chance. Let's give him the shot. He deserves it. And then if he loses again, we'll get Topuria a contender. I think Holloway is a better fight than Ortega. I think Ortega's a much easier fight for Ilia. I think that comes into play when he's calling out Ortega instead of Holloway. I think that really comes into play because we saw in the Yair fight, Ortega got dropped badly by Yair. If that's how you're performing round 1 versus Yair, I think Ilia is going to starch you and leave you out cold in the center of that octagon. Or anywhere in that octagon. It doesn't have to be the center. Anywhere in the octagon, you're going to be starched and left lifeless in that octagon by Ilia. If you're getting dropped like a sack of potatoes against Yair. Yair pillow hands Rodriguez. Ilia's going to put your lights out. And I think Ilia knows that that's an easier matchup for him. That might be why he's calling out Ortega. I don't think Ilia's scared of Holloway. I know people have been saying that. I think his reaction, dude, he's probably just awkward, probably just he didn't notice the camera was on him until the very end. And he probably just I don't know, I really don't know. I don't think he was scared. I don't know what it was, but I don't think he's scared of Holloway. He just starched Volkanovski. Why would he be scared of Holloway? I think Ilia will beat Max, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I think that matchup is much closer than the Ortega fight. That might be why Ilia is calling for the Ortega fight. Just putting that out there. But on the topic of Topuria versus Max and how I think that plays out, I think we've seen multiple times now that Max struggles with shorter opponents. Max struggles with shorter opponents, and you can see that in the Volk fights, right? I know the second fight, people say robbery. It was Volk did better in the second fight, but in the first fight, in the third fight, for sure the third fight, Holloway, he lost those fights, and he struggles with the shorter opponents in general. Why? The Volk we saw in the Gaethje fight, sorry, not the Volk, the Holloway we saw in the Gaethje fight is not the same Holloway who's going to fight Ilia, because all that dancing, all that footwork that he had against Gaethje is not going to be there against a shorter guy, because Holloway calls himself the T-Rex of the featherweight division, right? He has a short reach, but he's 5'11". So unless he wants to be punching down, so his reach is either the same or shorter than his opponent's. So unless he wants to be punching downwards in a weird way, I don't know if you can see my hands, punching downwards in a weird way, he doesn't want to do that. So he squats in this wide stance so he can be at the same level as his opponents and trade strikes there. It's better for him than punching down in some awkward fashion, but it leads to him losing that footwork that he had against Gaethje. And also it leaves him very susceptible to leg kicks. Is another big thing. And Ilia doesn't throw leg kicks that much, but when he does, he throws them hard. We saw that against Volk. We saw that against Josh Emmett. When he threw that one leg kick against Volk, dude, he made Volk spin like a ballerina, right? He throws hard low kicks, even if he doesn't throw them as much as other fighters will. Other fighters will be throwing more volume. He's throwing more heavy. The few he'll throw, or the whatever number it is that he throws, will be powerful. You know what I mean? And I think Max will feel it, and I think Max will also feel the punches of Ilia. When you have that wide stance and your footwork is gone, Ilia can close the distance easily. He can land those shots, those powerful shots I was never one of those guys who said Gage is going to put, Holloway out. But I'm not saying Ilia is going to put Holloway out, but I'm saying that Ilia could definitely knock him down. And his power could definitely pose a threat for Holloway, right? Gagey knocked Holloway down, and I was never a believer in that, Gagey has unreal power. I don't want to talk too much about that now because it's over. But Gagey hasn't really had much knockout wins by punches in a while. His last knockout win by punches was 2019. He knocked out, he got a TKO against Ferguson. But I'm talking about out cold. The last time that happened was 2019. With Ferguson, it was a TKO. With Poirier, it was a head kick. I was never a believer in, Gage is going to put Max's lights out. Gage's power is too much for Max. I was never a believer in that. So I'm not flip-flopping now, right? I'm not going from, Gage is going to put Max out to, Ilia is going to put Max out. No. I never thought Gage was going to do it, but I did think Ilia had the power to at least put him down. I don't know about put him out. If he puts him out, that'd be crazy. Puts him out, that'd be crazy. I'm not going to go for knockout. I think this fight goes the distance, but I think Ilia's power will be enough to get a knockdown. I see a knockdown possibly happening. I think Max can put up a good fight. I'm not ruling that out. I see it going the distance, and I can see Max getting a round or two, honestly. If this fight plays out, I can see Max getting a round or two. I can see him, avoiding the big shots, landing more volume, being the busier striker, and winning a round, winning 2 rounds maybe. But Ilia's power is going to be a big factor in the scoring. There might be rounds where Holloway's, the busier striker, but then Ilia lands one clean shot or one clean combination that really hurts Holloway, visibly hurts Holloway. And that will swing him the round. When he connects big. Ilia leaves people lifeless, bro. He left Josh Emmett a bloody mess, knocking him down multiple times. He got a 10-7 against Josh Emmett. He starched Jai Herbert. He demolished Bryce Mitchell. And then he flatlined Volkanovski. His resume is a testament to his power. That he can just put people out unconscious, lifeless in the octagon. Face first on the canvas type stuff. I think his power will be a problem for Holloway, especially when Holloway's fighting in that big wide stance. But I think it will be a close competitive fight. Like I said, I can see a knockdown happening for Ilia. And I also think Ilia can mix in his wrestling. People are forgetting Ilia's base is jiu-jitsu, not boxing. His base is jiu-jitsu. I think if he mixes in his wrestling and lands some good, powerful shots, not only can he win the fight and swing rounds his way with the wrestling and win a decision using his wrestling, if he mixes in the wrestling and the striking, I think he can also, even get a 10-8, dude. If and I'm telling you, right now, this might sound crazy, and if this fight is ever booked, I'll be happy once it's shown that I'm right. Because people might be talking about, a lot of people have this recency bias. They see how Holloway performed last, and they're like, oh, no, there's no way he's going to smoke Topuria. Don't have this recency bias. Don't forget that Ilia's coming off of a good knockout win, too. Right? Ilia's good. He's very good. And I predicted him to knock out Volkanovski, by the way. I've always been on the Ilia hype train. I think he's a problem for Holloway. I can see him getting a 10-8 round. I can see him landing good shots, and then just picking up Holloway, dunking him on the ground, landing more shots. Holloway's just a tough guy. He won't get finished. But then, it might cause it to be a 10-8 because of just the wrestling and the striking and more shots on the ground. I think this is going to be a win by a decision for Topuria if the fight happens. Honestly, if the fight happens. And the 10-8 round, I feel like it's going to be an expert prediction of mine if this fight happens. A 10-8 against Max. I feel like I can see it, bro. I can play it out in my mind. I can play it out. Topuria landing a big shot, maybe knocking down Max. And then going for more shots. And then going for a takedown. And then dunking him on the ground. And then some scrambles a little bit. And then more shots. 10-8 round. This might just be making a whole fan fiction or something like that in my brain. But that's how I see the fight playing out, honestly. I think the last thing I want to talk about is Max's best route after his win against Gagey. And I talked about this in my first video that I ever made on this channel about matchups I want to see after UFC 300. I want to emphasize this. I think Max Holloway should stay at 155. I don't understand why he wants to move back down to 45. I don't understand that at all. I don't think he has anything left to prove at 45. He's won the belt. He's defended it multiple times. What does he have to prove? Yes, sure, you lost it against Volkanovski. Yes, sure, you lost the next two fights against Volkanovski. I know he wants to reclaim that belt. I know that belt means something to him. It's special to him. I don't think it's worth it to pursue that road, especially after having success in a different weight class. And especially considering if he wins at 45, he'll probably just move up again for a super fight. I don't see him defending at 45. I don't see him feeling the need to defend it again. Who's next at 45? Ortega? We're going to see that again? Movsar? Is that really a big fight for Max? Sterling, maybe? If Sterling works his way up the rankings? Sterling? No. Diego Lopez? Like, who is left for Max at 45 to defend against? If he beats Topuria, he's going to take that belt and move up to 45 for a to 55 for a super fight against Islam or against whoever it is and win the belt. Or not, I don't know about win. We'll have to see. I don't know about win, but he'll fight for to get champ status. If that's your plan, just try and get that second belt already. Why try and get that first belt and then the second belt? Why don't you just try and get that belt at 55? And like just to emphasize this, I want to mention, like, you don't need to hold two belts simultaneously for people to praise you. Like, we've seen Alex Pereira get the middleweight belt and then lose it in his next fight, and then get the light heavyweight belt and defend it. And now people are calling him like, oh, he's in GOAT status or whatever, because winning belts in two divisions is already impressive. It's already impressive. So to win at 45 and then win a belt later in your career at 55 is like enough for GOAT status. People will put you in the GOAT conversation. You don't need to hold it at the same time. You really don't, especially when it's a dangerous matchup in Topuria. Like, if you lose to Topuria, what are you going to do? Move back up and try and, make your claim again at 55? Like, you just beat the number one contender in Gaethje. If you didn't call out Topuria on the mic, I feel like they would have ranked him higher. I feel like they ranked him a bit lower because he was hinting a move back down to featherweight. If he was saying like, oh, Islam, I want to fight Islam, I want to fight McGregor, I want to fight someone at 55, they probably wouldn't put him high in the rankings, right? Instead, they've put him like very low. They put him at 9, although he beat number like 3. Or was it number 2 at the time? I forget where. I think, yeah, Gaethje was number 2 at the time. Now Gaethje's at 3 and Holloway's at 9. Makes no sense, but I think it's largely in part due to Holloway calling out Topuria and hinting a move back down. They can't have a top-ranked lightweight just fighting for a different division. Like, it doesn't make sense, If you're top-ranked at lightweight, they probably want you fighting a lightweight, not holding up the rankings. Because lightweight's a stacked division, right? They don't want you just holding a spot and then moving divisions. I think Holloway should stay at 55. McGregor, there's a money fight available with McGregor. And he talked about this in his post-fight press conference. He said, okay, Conor calls himself a BMF, belt, or Conor calls himself a BMF. We can maybe do that fight. Why not push for a Conor fight, a money fight with Conor? Get yourself a huge payday. Why are you trying to move back down for Topuria, right? Or maybe Chandler, if Chandler beats McGregor, but that's honestly worse for Holloway. And it's I think it's less likely because I think Chandler will lose that fight. But I think it's better for Holloway if McGregor wins that fight. And I think McGregor will. Even if he loses, man, why doesn't Holloway just hold out before making any decisions? See, if Poirier beats Islam, you can make a case for a third fight with Poirier. If Conor beats Chandler, you can push for a fight with Conor. See what happens. Because, like, the future of the lightweight division is kind of uncertain. Like, Islam's probably going to beat Poirier. But in the off chance that Poirier just gets it done, if Chandler beats McGregor too, the UFC is going to throw Islam in the trash, say, no rematch for you, Islam. Armin, you're not getting that title shot anymore. We're booking, Conor Dustin 4 for the belt. They're going to do something like that. Like, so the future's kind of uncertain. Like, those things could happen. You know what I mean? So I think Holloway should hold out and try and stay at 55 and try and see what happens at 55 and push for some success in this second weight class that he's found success in already, I think that's what he should do. If he loses at 55, if in his next matchup at 55, he loses, whether it's for the belt or for something else, he loses somehow at 55, then move back down to 45. Then it's all good. 55 wasn't it for you. Move back down to 45. Will that title shot be readily available for you? I don't know. It might be. It might not be. But pursue some success in this weight class before moving back down the original weight class. Otherwise, why would you move up and rob us of Gaethje Makhachev, which would have been a sick fight? Although I think Makhachev would have smoked him. I think it would still be a sick fight. Gaethje's still a tough guy, even if his jiu-jitsu is not there, even if he doesn't know how to defend a choke. I think Gaethje is still a tough matchup. Why'd you rob us of that fight if you're not going to provide us with an alternative? You took Gaethje Makhachev away. Why not give us Holloway Makhachev? Give us a replacement instead of just saying, okay, I took away a title contender in Gaethje, and I'm just gonna leave now. Like, you just robbed him of us. Like, you just robbed Gaethje of title aspirations, robbed us of a sick fight between Gaethje and Makhachev, and now you're going all the way back down to featherweight. Why would you do that? You know? Like, just stay at featherweight then, bro. Like, just fight at featherweight next time. Smoke some guy at featherweight. Fight for the title at featherweight. Leave lightweight alone. Why are you destroying the lightweight division? And, like, not destroying the lightweight division, but why are you robbing Gaethje from us and murdering him and leaving him lifeless in the center of the octagon just to, like, walk away and not fight at lightweight anymore? I don't understand that at all from him. I don't think he's made a decision, though, yet. I think he's still, like, I think he's just talking online. But I don't think he's made or committed fully to a decision to move down to featherweight. I don't think he's fully committed to that, but he's been talking about it a lot, and it's been getting me annoyed a little bit and getting me worried. I want him to stay at lightweight. That's my dream for Holloway. Stay at lightweight, bro. Find some success at lightweight. Don't move back down. And I think that's his best course of action, personally. If I was his coaches, if I was his manager, I would tell him the same thing. Stay at 55. Anyways, that's all from me. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.